The air in Khalid Al-Farsi's office was heavy with the scent of oud and polished mahogany. Dubai's skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, a testament to his dominion over the city's wealth. At 35, Khalid was a force of nature, tall, broad-shouldered, with dark eyes that could freeze a room. His voice, low and commanding, cut through the silence. "You're fired." The words struck like a gavel. His assistant, a trembling woman in a pristine suit, gathered her things and fled, the third to be dismissed in a month. Leila Hassan, a 23-year-old delivery girl from the city's poorest district, stood frozen in the corner, clutching a tray of coffee. Her worn hijab and faded sneakers felt out of place in this palace of glass and gold. She'd only come to deliver an order from the cafe where she worked, but as Khalid's gaze swept the room, it landed on her. His eyes narrowed, assessing her like a predator sizing up prey. "You. Can you start tomorrow?" Leila's heart stuttered. "Me?" Her voice was barely a whisper, drowned by the hum of the city below. Khalid leaned back in his chair, his tailored suit accentuating his imposing frame. "You heard me." She wanted to protest. She had no experience, no qualifications, but the weight of her family's debts pressed against her chest, her mother's medical bills, her brother's school fees. This was a lifeline. Yes, I can." As she left the tower, the desert sun blinding her, Leila couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just stepped into a game she didn't understand. Buried deep within the Al-Farsi Empire was a secret, one that had been hidden for 20 years. A secret that tied her to Khalid in ways neither could fathom. Leila's first day was a whirlwind of chaos. The Al-Farsi Tower was a labyrinth of sleek corridors and whispered power plays. Her job as Khalid's assistant was simple on paper: manage his schedule, handle correspondence, and stay invisible. But Khalid was a storm, demanding, precise, and impossible to please. "These reports are late," he snapped, tossing a stack of papers across his desk. His voice was a blade, cutting through her nerves. "Do better or you're gone." Leila bit her tongue, her hands trembling as she gathered the papers. She wasn't used to being spoken to like this, but she needed the job. She worked late into the night, her eyes burning from the computer screen, determined to prove herself. The next morning, Khalid found his desk immaculate, every report organized, every meeting scheduled to the minute. He said nothing, but his silence felt like a concession. Weeks passed, and Leila's quiet competence began to chip away at Khalid's walls. She wasn't like the others, polished, ambitious, or intimidated. She was raw, unyielding, and unafraid to challenge him. When he demanded she cancel a crucial meeting to accommodate a last-minute whim, she stood her ground. "This meeting is with the Saudi investors," she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her gut. "It's worth millions. I won't cancel it." Khalid's jaw tightened, his eyes flashing with something dangerous. No one defied him. Yet instead of firing her, he leaned closer, his voice low. "You're different." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Leila's pulse raced. She didn't know why they scared him or why they thrilled her. The Al-Farsi Empire never slept, and neither did Khalid. Late nights became their routine, the office a cocoon of dim lights and shared silences. Leila noticed things about him others didn't. The way his fingers traced the scar on his knuckles when he was deep in thought. The fleeting sadness in his eyes when he spoke of his late father. Khalid, too, was drawn to her. Leila's resilience, her fire, stirred something he'd buried long ago. Hope. But he was a man who thrived on control, and she was a variable he couldn't predict. One stormy night, Dubai's skies unleashed a rare deluge. Thunder rattled the windows as Leila handed Khalid a file. Their fingers brushed, and a jolt of electricity shot through them. Time slowed. Her breath caught as his gaze locked onto hers, intense and unguarded. "Bethy, this can't happen," he growled, stepping back as if burned. His voice was rough, but his eyes betrayed him, hungry, conflicted. Layla's heart pounded. "I know." But the air between them crackled, charged with a force neither could deny. Fate, it seemed, had other plans. Layla's days were a blur of work and survival, but curiosity gnawed at her. Khalid's office held secrets, locked drawers, cryptic phone calls, and files she wasn't allowed to touch. One evening, while tidying his desk, she found a hidden compartment. Inside was a letter, yellowed with age, addressed to Layla. Her hands shook as she unfolded it. The handwriting was elegant, urgent. "If you're reading this, you are not who you think you are. Your past is a lie, your future a battle. Trust no one, not even him." The letter was unsigned, but a faded crest adorned the paper, a falcon clutching a crescent moon. Layla's mind raced. Was this meant for her? Or another Layla? She hid the letter in her bag, her heart hammering with questions she wasn't ready to answer. Khalid's father, Emir al-Farsi, had been a titan, his empire built on oil, real estate, and ruthless ambition. But his death 5 years ago left whispers of a scandal. Layla's discovery of the letter led her to dig deeper, sneaking into the company archives late at night. She found a file labeled Project Falcon. It detailed a child, born to an unknown mother, stolen from the al-Farsi family and hidden in the slums. The child was the true heir to the empire. A girl. Layla's age. Layla's name. Her world tilted. Was she Khalid's sister? The thought made her sick, especially after the feelings she'd begun to harbor. She confronted Khalid, her voice trembling as she showed him the file. Khalid's face darkened. "This is impossible," he said, but doubt flickered in his eyes. He ordered a DNA test, his voice cold but unsteady. "If you're my sister, I've failed my father's legacy." The truth, they would soon learn, was far darker. The wait for the results was agonizing. Khalid grew distant, his interactions with Layla clipped and formal. Layla, meanwhile, wrestled with her identity. She'd always known she was adopted, but her adoptive parents had died when she was young, leaving no answers. When the results arrived, Khalid opened the envelope in his office, Layla standing across from him. His eyes scanned the page, and relief flooded his features. "No relation," Layla exhaled. But the relief was short-lived. If she wasn't his sister, who was she? The file suggested she'd been planted by Khalid's enemies, a pawn in a long game to destabilize his empire. But the letter's warning, "Trust no one," echoed in her mind. Was Khalid part of the deception? Khalid's voice softened. "We'll find the truth, Layla. Together." But trust was a luxury neither could afford. Layla's world shattered when masked men ambushed her outside her apartment. She fought, but they were too strong, dragging her into a black SUV. Hours later, she awoke in a dimly lit warehouse, bound to a chair. A man stepped from the shadows, Sheikh Omar bin Zayed, Khalid's rival and a serpent in Dubai's elite circles. Omar's smile was cruel. "You fell for the bait, Khalid. Now she dies." He'd revealed his plan. Layla was a distraction, a fabricated heir designed to fracture Khalid's empire. But there was more. He knew something about Layla's true origins, something his spies had uncovered. Khalid, meanwhile, had discovered Layla's abduction. His rage was a force of nature, shaking the foundations of his carefully controlled world. He'd lost too much, his father, his trust, his heart. He wouldn't lose her. Khalid's team tracked Omar to an abandoned port on Dubai's outskirts. The rescue was chaos, gunfire, screams, and the stench of burning oil. Khalid fought like a man possessed, his suit torn and bloodied. He found Layla, bruised but defiant, still tied to the chair. He cut her free, his hands shaking. "I won't lose you." Their kiss was desperate, a collision of fear and longing, sealed in the heat of survival. But as they escaped, Omar slipped into the night, his laughter echoing. He knew the truth about Layla, and he wasn't done. Back at the Al Farsi Tower, Omar sent an encrypted file to Khalid's phone. It contained a video, grainy but damning. A woman resembling Layla spoke of a child stolen at birth, the daughter of Sheikh Hassan al-Mansouri, Khalid's greatest ally, who died in a mysterious plane crash 20 years ago. Leela was that child. Her inheritance, tied to al-Mansouri's oil fields, rivaled Khalid's wealth. Omar had orchestrated her abduction as a baby, planting her in the slums to keep her from claiming her birthright. Now he wanted her dead to secure his own power. Layla's knees buckled. She wasn't a pawn. She was a queen, hidden in plain sight, but the revelation came with a price. Omar's assassins were closing in. The final showdown unfolded in the desert, where Omar had lured them to an abandoned oasis. Khalid and Layla stood side by side, their alliance forged in fire. Layla, no longer the timid girl from the slums, wielded a gun with steady hands. "You don't own me," she told Khalid, her voice fierce. He smirked, his eyes alight with pride. "No, but I love you." The battle was brutal, but together they outmaneuvered Omar. Layla delivered the final blow, disarming him and leaving him for the authorities. With Omar defeated, she claimed her birthright, merging her inheritance with Khalid's empire not as his subordinate, but as his equal. As the sun set over Dubai, Khalid knelt before her, a diamond ring glinting in his hand. "Marry me." Layla smiled, her heart full. "Only if you understand I'm not just your wife, I'm your partner." 1 year later, Layla Al-Farsi stood on the balcony of their penthouse, the city sprawling beneath her. She was no longer the poor girl who delivered coffee. She ran half the Al-Farsi empire, her name whispered in boardrooms and palaces alike. Khalid joined her, his arms slipping around her waist. "The world fears us," he murmured. Layla laughed, her eyes gleaming. Good, they should. The poor girl was gone, the queen had risen. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to this channel if you haven't done that. It takes 5 seconds and it's totally free. Smash the like button and turn on the notification bell for more stories around the world.